guys, David here. Welcome to Digital Outlook. In today's video, I'm actually traveling to California. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a repost of one that I did before on securing your digital assets, considering what we talked about this morning in our coffee chat and whatnot. But guys, before we begin, if you'd hit that like and subscribe and tell your friends and family so we can get this information out to as many people as possible, that will be fantastic. And tomorrow, we'll be back on with a fresh one for you. All right, guys, so without further ado, why don't we get to it? So guys, before we get into the different ways we can secure our digital assets, we first need to understand what digital assets really are. Digital assets are not something tangible like physical assets, gold, silver, or traditional currency. These assets aren't available in physical form. They actually are considered like a group of different codes, and they're stored on the blockchain. Now, when I say they're stored on the blockchain, I need to be a little bit more specific about that. So for instance, there's different blockchains. The technology is similar, but they are all different platforms. So let me give you an example. Cardano, for instance, on the Cardano blockchain has a native token ADA. Now, ADA is sent and received on the Cardano blockchain. Now, there's another blockchain utilized by VeChain, and VeChain's native token is VET, V-E-T. And VET transacts on that VeChain blockchain. It's the same thing with XRP. XRP transacts on the XRP ledger. These are all digital assets, but they're all operating on their own unique individual blockchains. Now, the reason why it's important to understand this is because each of these blockchains use their own proprietary protocols to send and receive digital assets. So, for instance, if you sent ADA to a VeChain address, then that ADA more than likely is going to be lost forever because the VeChain blockchain is not going to recognize the protocols from the Cardano blockchain. So we need to understand how digital transactions work. So digital transactions work with both a public key and a private key. So let's take a look here. All right, so what is a public key? A public key allows you to receive cryptocurrency transactions. It is a cryptographic code that's paired to a private key. While anyone can send transactions to the public key, you need the private key to unlock them and prove that you are the owner of the cryptocurrency that received in the transaction. The public key that can receive transaction is usually an address, which is simply a shortened form of your public key, and I'm going to show you some examples of what these addresses are. Therefore, you can freely share your public key without worry. You may have seen donation pages for content creators or charities with public keys for their crypto addresses online. While anyone can donate, you would need the private key to unlock and access the donated funds. So, what's a private key here? Here is one crucial piece of advice to remember. Never share your private key with anyone. Great advice. A private key gives you the ability to prove ownership, and that's a big deal because it's all about how we prove our ownership of these digital assets, or to spend the funds associated with your public address. A private key can take many forms: 256 character long binary code, a 64-digit hexadecimal code, a QR code, a mnemonic phrase. Regardless of its form, a private key is an astronomically large number, and it's large for a good reason. While you can generate a public key with a private key, doing the opposite is practically impossible because of the one-way trapdoor function. You can have any number of public keys connected to a private key. So for a transaction on the blockchain to be completed, it needs to be signed. The steps for someone to send you a transaction are: 1. A transaction is encrypted using a public key. The transaction can only be decrypted by the accompanying private key. Next, the transaction is signed using the private key, which proves that the transaction hasn't been modified. The digital signature is generated through combining the private key with the data being sent in the transaction. Finally, the transaction can be verified as authentic using the accompanying public key. You digitally sign a transaction to prove you're the owner of the funds. Nodes check and authenticate transactions automatically. Any unauthenticated transactions get rejected by the network. An authentic mined transaction on the blockchain is irreversible. So that point about irreversibility is extremely important. Because once you actually initiate a transaction where, for instance, you send your digital assets from the exchange that you bought them to your digital wallet, if you send it to the incorrect address or the incorrect blockchain, then it's lost forever. It cannot be reversed. This is not like your bank that if, I sent that to the wrong account, they need that to be pulled back. It can't. It's done and it's irreversible. Now, I know that can sound pretty scary, but trust me, once you go through this and you get the hang of it, it's not as scary as it sounds. So let's take a look at an example really quick here so you can kind of get a little clearer idea of what this really all means. So here's an example for XRP. It says spending XRP online's easy. In this guide, you're going to learn how to pay for a merchant's invoice with XRP using either an exchange account or a wallet. Okay, so let's take a look at this example. Here they go. Great news. You've just landed on CoinGate Invoice. Now select XRP and click on the Pay with XRP button to proceed. Entering your email address is optional but encouraged. You will only receive a single status update to your inbox. A payment window with further details will open and you have 20 minutes, sometimes more, to send the transaction. Keep an eye out on the timer. To make the payment, you will need to enter the total amount to pay in 1. There's the total amount to pay. The address, here's the address in 2, and this is that cryptographic public key for the address you're sending the funds to. And the destination tag down here in 3. Now a destination tag, this could be a universal address, and they can have lots of different destination tags. This would be like the name of the bank, and this identifies your account. That's how that works. You can also scan the QR code for, remember they talked about having that QR code, if you're using a mobile wallet, or click on the blue wallet button 5 to trigger, right there, the software wallet on your device. So now they're going to give us an example of an exchange. For this example, we will make a payment using the Binance exchange. First, go over the Funds tab and select Withdrawals option and choose XRP in the drop-down menu. Then copy the receiving address from your merchant's invoice and paste it in XRP withdrawal address field. Do the same with the destination tag. Copy it from the invoice and paste it in Binance's XRP withdrawal tag field. So here's the address that is being sent to, and here's the tag. And that's vitally important, so it goes to the correct account. Here's the amount, and then you're going to click Submit. Now, this is when you're sending funds, like they're using in this example, to a third party for payment, and you're actually using the Binance exchange to your XRP. But let's say you've used the Binance exchange to purchase your XRP. Well, now you're going to use the same method to withdraw that XRP to your own individual wallet. And your wallet is going to generate for you one of these public keys, one of these kinds of addresses. And then it's going to utilize a private key to validate the address, but you're going to put that in there. A lot of times your own personal wallets are not even going to need a withdrawal tag, and you're going to put in the amount and withdraw it from the Binance exchange to your own wallet where you can custody your own digital assets. All right, so now that we know what digital assets are and we kind of get an idea of how transactions work, let's take a look at the different types of digital asset wallets. So there are two categories for digital asset wallets. There's hot wallets and cold wallets. Examples of hot wallets are desktop wallets, web wallets, and mobile wallets. And examples of cold wallets can be paper wallets and hardware wallets. Okay, so what are hot wallets? Well, hot wallets are basically the wallets that are connected to the internet, and generally they offer less security. On the other hand, hot wallets offer better accessibility due to their connection with the internet. Even if hot wallets are vulnerable to fraudsters and hacker attacks, they are highly user-friendly. So cold wallets implies that these are wallets that are not connected to the internet. And so as a result, they're serving more like vaults. Now you can use them for everyday transactions. You would connect them up to the internet, make the transaction, then disconnect them. So for types of hot wallets, we have the desktop wallets, web wallets, mobile wallets. Now desktop wallets usually are going to involve downloading an application to your desktop. That application will help in generating a data file for holding the keys of the users, like we were talking about before, the public and the private keys. Users should also create a password for accessing the keys, and desktop wallets offer the advantage of ownership of your key, albeit with risk of physical damage or malware or virus infection. So if your computer got hacked, they might be able to get in there. What about web wallets? Well, web wallets are one of the prominent types of crypto wallets in the categories of hot wallets. You can access web wallets through a web browser without the need of downloading any specialized software or application. With the help of browser access, web wallets ensure accessibility for crypto assets from any location with your password, a device, and a web browser. In the case of web wallets, websites would have ownership of the keys to your crypto assets. However, alternatives like multi-sig wallets offer a certain level of control to users over their crypto wallets. So in a way, you can kind of look at these exchanges that allow you to custody your digital assets on them as a type of web wallet, because you're going to access that exchange through a web browser with your password and whatever, and you might be able to use, like a 2FA authenticator or something like that that would kind of give you more security. But the issue with those types of wallets is that you don't hold the private keys. And there's a saying in the digital asset space, not your keys, not your crypto. Essentially what that means is that they control it. So let's say there's something like an internet blackout. Well, at that point, you're not going to have access to your digital assets. And another thing to consider is that website or that exchange could get attacked. And if that does happen, these exchanges, a lot of them do have some insurance to protect you, and they use cold storage themselves. But it could be a long time before you get access to your digital assets, even if you get them all back. So unless you're trading regularly, every day or at least twice a week or something like that, then it's probably more beneficial for you to actually store your digital assets on a cold storage device. But we'll get there in a few minutes here. Okay, so mobile wallets. Well, mobile wallets are also one of the crucial crypto wallet categories in hot wallets. Function similar to desktop wallets. You have to install a mobile application on the phone, which would serve as a hot wallet. Mobile wallets present better flexibility for exchanging funds while presenting some security risks. All right. So let's take a look over here at cold wallets. Now, you don't really see this type of cold wallet too often, a paper wallet, but let's just take a look and see what it is. The name obviously here, it says it gives it a lot away. Paper wallets are nothing but physical pieces of paper. The paper must contain all the data you would need for accessing the digital asset cryptocurrency, and cold wallets generally offer additional security. So hardware wallets, on the other hand, truly define the principles of designing a cold wallet. They offer security by completely avoiding the online exposure of private keys. Hardware wallets save private keys on a physical device in an offline environment and work just like a flash drive. Hardware wallets are one of the most easy to use crypto wallet types in cold wallets because you can connect them easily to computers or any other device by using a USB drive. Even if the device is connected to the internet, the private key does not leave the device. The device would request the transaction details and provide validation for the data, thereby completing the transaction. Then, the transaction details go to the online network where it is documented. Some of the popular hardware wallets which are in use presently include Trezor, Ledger, and many others from different manufacturers. And I'm going to show you a few of those. Alright guys, so now we're going to take a look at different desktop wallets, web wallets, and hardware wallets. I'm going to leave the mobile wallets out because a lot of the desktop wallets do have mobile applications to them, and it's pretty much the same thing. So looking over here, the first one we have up here is Exodus. Now Exodus is an extremely popular desktop wallet, and you can see here, here's their desktop version, and here's their mobile version. So I went ahead and I actually downloaded the application so I could show it to you for this example. So here you have the application open up, and you can get this for Windows, Mac, whatever. And of course here you can see all the various assets that this wallet will support. So of course Bitcoin, Ethereum, there's XRP. I mean there's quite a number of assets, and you can actually add more. So let's say, for instance, we were going to actually send some XRP to somebody. We'll select the XRP here, and there you see the send and receives. Now if we were going to send it, it opens up a window here. It says send XRP to an address. Now you can put in a QR code, or you would actually paste that address that I showed you in the previous example and the destination tag if it was to an exchange and it required a destination tag. If you were sending it to someone else or somebody that didn't have a destination tag, you wouldn't put that in. Now, obviously there's no XRP in our wallet right now, but if there were, we would designate the amount and we would click send. Okay, what if we were receiving XRP? Well, simply you would click on the receive tab, and lo and behold, see that address there? That is your address, and there's a QR code that you can use. Now, if you are withdrawing XRP from an exchange, like in that Binance example that we use, that's the address that you would put into the sending space on Binance. Because Binance, you're sending it from Binance to your personal wallet right here, so that's the address you will use. Now, interestingly enough here, you can actually view this on the blockchain. So you click that, it opens up a web page for you. Now, if we had any transactions or amounts on there, they would show up in here. So let's go back there. Let's take a look at another asset. Why don't we go and take a look at what it would look like for Cardano. So here's Cardano. We're going to open that up. Again, you're going to click the send. It's going to ask you for the Cardano address to send it to, and you would put it in there. How about the receive? Well, here's something I really want to point out to you now. So remember when I talked to you about if you sent Cardano to VeChain and they wouldn't recognize it? Well, here's why. You notice how with XRP it had an address? Well, look at this address. Completely different with Cardano. And that's why you couldn't send Cardano to VeChain, because it uses a completely different protocol system with a completely different style of address. Okay, so let's go back to the main page. All right, so there's some other things in here that are really great that you can see. It'll show the highest balance of what you have, your portfolio, what's going on, what your best asset in the last 24 hours was. You can see here's the price action tab, here's the portfolio tab, so it'll break down in percentage of what you would hold in your portfolio. So this is actually quite a really good, very popular desktop wallet for your digital assets. But remember this, it still has the vulnerability of being hacked if your computer can catch a virus and it can get hacked. So it's not the same rock solid security like cold storage is, but we'll get into that in a minute here. Okay guys, let's take a look at another one of these desktop wallets. So here we have Atomic Wallet. An Atomic Wallet is going to have pretty much the same features that a Exodus wallet did. It's going to have all the various assets, the send and receive functions. You can see it has a mobile device as well as a desktop device. You know, you got your wallet exchange, you're going to have the history, staking, all that kind of stuff. This is actually a very good one as well. All right, so here's another one, Garda Wallet. And again, it's going to have all the same features as the other one did. They're going to show your portfolios. They're going to show your balances. They're going to show the changes in your assets, all of that, the up-down action, all of that. All of these wallets are going to do that. So what it comes down to, it's more of a preference, just like a preference of using Chrome browser or Firefox or Internet Explorer. It's all that kind of thing when it comes to these desktop wallets. So the next wallet to take a look at is these web wallets. Well, one of the biggest and most popular ones that integrates with your browser is called MetaMask. And it has all different kinds of features. It works with those swaps, so Uniswap, PancakeSwap, SundaySwap, all those different swaps. It does that. You can buy crypto through it. There's a community. You can get support, frequently asked questions, all that kind of stuff. Now, I actually have it right up here on my browser, and I use Brave browser. And let me see if I can get the, yeah, there it is. So it's basically like a little add-on or application inside the browser. I would put in my password, it would open it up, and lo and behold, I'd be in my wallet. Now that's a web wallet. Now I myself don't really use this for very much at all. And I'm not a real big user of the decentralized exchanges. Not that I think they're bad, it's just I don't really use them. But there are times when I've had to access some things through it, so I have that there, but I don't keep any assets really on there. The next ones that we're going to get into are the ones that I think are the primary ones that you'd want to use on a regular basis, and that's going to be the hardware wallets. Okay, so now let's take a look at these cold storage hardware wallets, the most secure wallets that there are. All right, the first one that I have here is Ledger. Now, Ledger is probably the most popular one of these that there are, and I actually use it myself. Now, what it actually is, there's a few different versions of Ledger. There's a Ledger Nano S, there's a Ledger Nano X, so there's different versions, but basically what it is, they have all these various applications for all the different kinds of digital assets that there are, and on this thing, you actually store your own private keys. It never leaves the device, and that includes even when you connect it to the internet to use it. Now, the thing to really think about when it comes to these hardware devices, or any of these wallets for that matter, is you're not actually storing your digital assets on the device, because your digital assets are registered on their various blockchains. What is being stored on these devices are your private and public keys, and primarily the private keys, so that you can prove ownership of your digital assets. So Ledger here has a promo video to explain their product, so why don't we give that a listen.
Hi, can I ask you something about cryptocurrencies? Do you know what's really important when you're buying? Two things really matter: security and ownership of your coins. Alright. What counts is the key that gives you access to your coins, your private key. The person who has access to this key really owns the associated coins and can do whatever he wants with them. This person must be you. But when you buy coins online, you don't own this key. The exchange does. This means you are not in control. It's like if you buy a house and give the key to someone else. You want to go inside, you have to ask for permission, and you're not even sure you'll be allowed. Ding dong. Can I go in my house? Not today, maybe tomorrow. Well, if you keep the key, you can do whatever you want. So, to give you full control over your crypto, Ledger created a solution that enables you to secure and own this key. The hardware wallet, combined with the Ledger Live application, is the best way to secure your funds while giving you the freedom to manage everything on your own. This is how it works. Your private key always remains offline in the hardware wallet. Nobody can access it or use it except you. You'll need this key to access Ledger Live main services, just like in a house where the master key gives you access to all the rooms and facilities. With Ledger, buy, sell, manage, exchange crypto, and earn interest without ever compromising the security of your coins. That's it. Couldn't be more simple.
Okay, well that was a pretty good description of what an actual hardware wallet does. And Ledger is one of the very best, so I really support this one. So a little further down on this page, you can actually see how they make this thing and put it all together. If you go a little further down, now the price of these things in US dollars, the Ledger Nano X is $149 and the Nano S is $79, which in my opinion is an amazingly great price considering what you're actually protecting on this device. Now guys, one thing I'm going to highly recommend, don't go on eBay or Amazon or any other site to try and buy this thing at a cheaper price. People can take these things apart and have been known to manipulate the components on the inside so that they can actually get at your assets after you've loaded them on there. And you will not even be able to recognize it. The packaging will arrive and it'll look exactly as if it came directly from Ledger itself. Only if you're going to pick one of these up, only get it from the website. That is my advice. Okay, so now let's take a look at another one of these hardware wallets. This one here is called Trezor. And Trezor works very much the same as Ledger. It's a little bit different. It uses a little bit different technology, of course, but it's basically doing the same thing. It's storing all of the private keys on the device and not online where it can be compromised. So when you're looking down here, you're going to take a look. It looks a little different, obviously, than the Ledger, but way down here, you're going to see the difference. So here it's going to say, okay, well, get your Trezor 1. So how much is a Trezor 1, their base model? Well, their base model is $77 US. And what about their more advanced model? So let's see the advanced model here. The advanced model is $280 US. Now, both of these two devices, Ledger and Trezor, are actually very good devices and have been proven over time to keep people's private keys safe and secure. Now, there's another one up here we're going to take a look at. It's called Descent Wallet. Now, Descent Wallet is quite interesting because it's a biometric wallet. It actually uses your fingerprint in order to gain access to the wallet, but then again stores those private keys inside the wallet where they never leave the device. Now, the Descent wallet costs about $119 to buy. And like I said, with all these hardware wallets, I'd recommend you actually buy them from the websites directly. So guys, as you can see, self-custody of your digital assets is a very big and diverse subject. There's lots of different types of wallets. People use them in different ways. They utilize different security features, and they work differently with how you transact with the blockchain. But suffice it to say, it's something you need to decide as to which one of these applications you're going to work with so that you can become very comfortable with it. So guys, before you go, just take a peek at how absolutely packed this terminal is in DFW. Unbelievable and crazy. So guys, as you know, I'm not a financial advisor, and this isn't financial advice. But if you found value in it, if you'd hit that like and subscribe, I'd appreciate that. So, in the meantime and in between time, stay safe, be blessed, and I'll catch you in the next one.